The Reckoning, A Grandfather's Revenge. Part 1. The door slammed shut. You want to know about revenge? Real revenge? Not the hot-blooded kind that lands you in prison, but the cold, calculated type that dismantles a man's entire world piece by piece? Then sit down, because I'm about to tell you how I destroyed my own son, and why he deserved every second of it. My name is Robert Castellano, and I'm 73 years old. 5 years ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I believed my son when he said he was too busy to see me. Too busy building his law firm. Too busy with important clients. Too busy. But here's the thing about lies, they have a smell. And after 5 years, I could smell the rot from 3 states away. It all started on a Tuesday morning in September. My friend Harold, good man, known him 40 years, and I were sitting in a diner in Portland, Oregon. We'd just driven 16 hours from Phoenix, where I'd retired after selling my construction company. Harold's wife had passed 6 months prior, and I thought a road trip might do us both good. Plus, it was time. Time to see my son, Marcus, face to face. You nervous? Harold asked, pushing his scrambled eggs around his plate. About seeing my own son? I laughed, but it sounded hollow even to me. What's there to be nervous about? Harold gave me that look, the one that said he knew I was full of it. Rob, the man hasn't returned your calls in 8 months. Last Christmas, he sent you a gift card. A gift card. He's busy. He's something, all right. I should have listened to Harold. Should have turned the car around right then. But pride is a funny thing. It makes you walk right into the knife you see coming. Marcus's law firm occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower downtown. Castellano and Associates, the sign read. Not Castellano and Son. Not even Castellano Law. Just Associates. Like he'd already erased me from the equation. The lobby was all marble and chrome, cold as a morgue. A receptionist who couldn't have been older than 25 looked up from her computer with a practiced smile that died the moment she saw us. 2 old men in casual clothes, probably looking tired from the road. Not the clientele they were used to. Can I help you? Her tone said she'd rather not. I'm here to see Marcus Castellano. I'm his father. The smile returned, but it was different now. Pitying. Do you have an appointment? I'm his father, I repeated. I don't need an appointment. She picked up the phone, whispered something I couldn't hear, then hung up. He's in a meeting. It could be several hours. We'll wait. And wait we did. Harold and I sat in those uncomfortable modern chairs for 3 hours. 3 hours watching young lawyers in expensive suits stride past us like we were furniture. 3 hours of that receptionist's pitying glances. 3 hours while my son, my own flesh and blood, made us cool our heels like we were solicitors selling vacuum cleaners. When Marcus finally emerged from the elevator, I barely recognized him. The boy I'd raised, the kid who'd fallen off his bike and cried in my arms, who'd celebrated his first Little League home run by tackling me in a hug, had been replaced by this stranger. $2,000 suit, gold Rolex, haircut that probably cost more than my monthly electric bill. He looked successful. He looked powerful. He looked at me like I was nothing. Dad? Not a greeting. A statement. An acknowledgement of an unfortunate fact. Marcus. I stood, tried to hug him. He tolerated it for exactly 1 second before stepping back. It's good to see you, son. This is Harold I've told you about. What are you doing here? He glanced around the lobby like we were embarrassing him. You can't just show up at my workplace. I wanted to surprise you. We drove all the way from Arizona. Thought we could grab dinner, catch up. It's been 5 years. 5 years since you chose to retire to the desert instead of staying here where your family was. The words hit like a slap. Your mother and I needed the dry climate for her arthritis, you know that. After she passed, I stayed because it was easier than being a father. Harold touched my arm. Maybe we should go. But I couldn't move. I was staring at my son, trying to find even a trace of the boy I'd raised. Marcus, I don't understand. What did I do to make you hate me like this? Hate you? He laughed, and it was ugly. I don't hate you, Dad. I just don't have time for you. You're a relic. A reminder of where I came from, and I've worked too hard to distance myself from that. He gestured at us dismissively. Look at you both. You look homeless. You show up here, at my firm, dressed like you're going to mow someone's lawn. We drove 16 hours. I didn't ask you to. I certainly didn't invite you. He lowered his voice, but it was somehow worse than if he'd shouted. The elderly are a drain, Dad. On resources, on time, on progress. You had your chance to build something. You sold a small-time construction company and retired. Good for you. But don't come here expecting me to celebrate mediocrity or play happy family when I'm building an empire. An empire, I repeated softly. That's right. And empires aren't built by looking backward. They're built by cutting dead weight. He straightened his tie. I have a meeting in 5 minutes. Security will see you out. Marcus. Goodbye, Dad. He walked away. Just turned his back and walked away like we were strangers. Like 27 years of birthday parties and baseball games and helping him with homework and paying for his college and law school meant absolutely nothing. 2 security guards appeared as if summoned by silent alarm. Gentlemen, I'll need you to leave the building. Harold grabbed my arm before I could say something I'd regret. We walked out in silence, into the gray Portland afternoon. The rain had started, of course it had. As we reached the car, I looked back at that glass tower, at the name that should have included mine. Rob, Harold said quietly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. I'm not angry, Harold. You're not? No. I opened the car door, sat down, stared at my hands, the calloused, work-worn hands that had built 37 homes in my career, that had changed my son's diapers and taught him to tie his shoes and shook on deals with nothing but a man's word as guarantee. I'm not angry at all. Because anger was hot. Anger was emotional. And what I felt settling over me was cold. Precise. Final. I'm disappointed, I said. Disappointed that I raised a son who thinks success means forgetting where you came from. Who thinks elderly people are disposable. Harold climbed in the passenger seat. So what do we do? I started the engine. We're going to teach him a lesson. What kind of lesson? The kind that sticks. I pulled out of the parking space, but I wasn't driving back to Arizona. Not yet. The kind you learn when everything you've built comes crashing down around you. Rob, he's a lawyer. A successful one. All the better. I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. The higher they climb, Harold, the farther they fall. Part 2, The Investigation. That night, in a cheap motel on the outskirts of Portland, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Marcus's face, that cold dismissal. The elderly are a drain. Like I was something to be thrown away. Like 40 years of marriage, raising a child, building a business meant nothing because I'd reached an arbitrary age. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and opened my laptop. If Marcus wanted to treat this like war, then I'd approach it like a general, gather intelligence, identify weaknesses, strike where it hurts most. I started with the basics. Castellano and Associates, what did they actually do? The website was slick, professional, filled with stock photos of diverse lawyers looking thoughtfully at computers. But buried in the practice areas section, I found something interesting. Corporate mergers and acquisitions, real estate development, estate planning. Estate planning. How ironic. I clicked through to the attorney profiles. Marcus was listed as managing partner, along with 4 associates I didn't recognize. But one name caught my eye, Jennifer Wilcox, senior partner. In the photo, she looked about 50, professional, with sharp eyes behind designer glasses. Her biography mentioned she'd been with the firm for 15 years, which meant she'd been there since before Marcus joined. 15 years. That was a detail worth remembering. Over the next few days, while Harold explored Portland's food scene, the man could find good coffee in a desert. I became a digital detective. I was old, sure, but I wasn't stupid. 40 years running a construction company teaches you to read contracts, follow money trails, and spot when something doesn't add up. Castellano and Associates had grown rapidly in the past 3 years. From a small firm with 6 employees to over 40, with satellite offices in Seattle and San Francisco. Marcus was doing well, that much was obvious. But how well exactly? I pulled up the Oregon Secretary of State Business Registry. Every business files paperwork, articles of incorporation, annual reports, officer listings. It's all public record if you know where to look. That's when I found the first crack in Marcus's perfect facade. The firm had been founded 12 years ago by one Jonathan Castellano. My son Marcus had joined as a junior associate 7 years ago. But 3 years ago, something changed. Jonathan Castellano filed a change of ownership form, transferring his entire stake in the firm to Marcus for, I had to read it 3 times to believe it, $1. $1. Nobody sells a successful law firm for $1. Not unless they're forced to. Harold, I called from the motel desk. Come look at this. Harold ambled over, coffee in hand. Find something? Jonathan Castellano. Ever heard Marcus mention that name? Can't say I have. Who is he? Was, maybe. He founded the firm Marcus now runs. And 3 years ago, he gave it all to Marcus for basically nothing. I pulled up another document. Here's his last filed address. Want to take a drive? Jonathan Castellano lived 40 minutes outside Portland, in a small ranch house that had seen better days. The yard needed mowing, and the paint was peeling from the shutters. Not what I'd expected from a successful lawyer. An old sedan sat in the driveway, at least 15 years old. I knocked on the door. The man who answered looked like he'd aged 20 years in 3. Late 50s, gray hair, tired eyes. Yes? Mr. Castellano? Jonathan Castellano? Who's asking? My name is Robert Castellano. I'm Marcus's father. His expression shifted, surprise, then something harder. I see. Come to gloat? Come to understand. Can we talk? He studied me for a long moment, then stepped aside. Why not? Misery loves company. The house was neat but sparse. Cheap furniture, generic prints on the walls. We sat in the living room, and Jonathan didn't offer coffee or pleasantries. So, he said, what do you want to know? What happened between you and my son? He laughed bitterly. Your son. That's rich. Do you know what your son is, Mr. Castellano? I'm beginning to. He's a parasite. A very talented, very charming parasite. Jonathan leaned back. I founded that firm 20 years ago with my own money, my own contacts, my own sweat. Built it from nothing. When Marcus applied 7 years ago, fresh out of law school, I saw potential. Smart kid, hungry, reminded me of myself at that age. What changed? He did. Or maybe he was always that way, and I was too blind to see it. Jonathan stood, walked to the window. About 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with early-stage Parkinson's. Nothing serious yet, just a tremor in my hands, some fatigue. I told Marcus in confidence because he was more than an associate by then. He was like a son. I felt my stomach tighten. 6 months later, Marcus came to me with a proposal. He'd take over more of the day-to-day operations while I focused on treatment. I was grateful. But then the clients started complaining, not about Marcus, about me. Said I'd been erratic in meetings, made mistakes in contracts, forgot important details. Did you? No. But Marcus was very convincing. He showed me emails I didn't remember sending, appointment notes with errors I didn't remember making. He suggested maybe the Parkinson's was affecting me more than I thought. Maybe I should step back before I made a mistake that cost the client. Harold leaned forward. He fabricated evidence. Smart evidence. Nothing I could prove was fake. And by then, the other associates were looking to Marcus for leadership. The clients trusted him. When he suggested I sell him the firm for a token amount, just to avoid the embarrassment of forced retirement, I was so confused, so tired of fighting, I agreed. And then? Then I discovered the truth. A former associate, Jennifer Wilcox, came to me a year after I'd signed everything away. She'd quit rather than watch what was happening. She told me Marcus had systematically poisoned my relationships. Sent emails from dummy accounts that looked like mine. Scheduled meetings and didn't tell me, then told clients I'd forgotten. Made it look like I was incompetent. Why didn't you sue? Jonathan's laugh was hollow. With what money? With what proof? Marcus is a lawyer, Mr. Castellano. A damn good one. He covered his tracks perfectly. And I had no resources to fight him. The Parkinson's was real. By the time I realized what he'd done, I was struggling enough that no one would believe me. I sat there, absorbing this. My son! The boy I'd raised to value integrity, honesty, hard work. I'm sorry. Are you? You're his father. You raised him to be this. No. The word came out harder than I intended. I raised him to be better. Whatever he became, he chose. Did he? Jonathan turned to face me. You know what he said to me the last time we spoke? He said that people like us, older people, we had our time. That the world belongs to the young and ambitious now, and we should just gracefully exit the stage. The elderly are a drain. Mr. Castellano, I said quietly, would you be willing to testify to this? If I found a way to prove it? Testify to what? Ancient history? It's been 3 years. And like I said, he's good. There's nothing to prove. Maybe. But I'm good at finding things that are buried. And I'm very motivated. Jonathan studied me. Why? He's your son. He was. But the man who threw me out of his office yesterday? I don't know who that is. I stood. If I find evidence, real evidence, will you help me? Mr. Castellano, I lost everything because of your son. My career, my savings, my reputation. If you can actually prove what he did. He nodded slowly. Yes. I'll help. Back in the motel, I started building a file. Not a physical one, everything went into encrypted documents on my laptop. Marcus had taught me one thing: be smarter than your opponent. I made a list. What I know. Marcus systematically destroyed Jonathan Castellano to steal his firm. He values ambition over ethics. He despises the elderly, his own words. He's expanded aggressively in 3 years. Jennifer Wilcox quit rather than participate. What I need to know. How did he fabricate the evidence? Are there other victims? What's his current weak point? Where's the money coming from? That last question nagged at me. Expanding a law firm takes capital. Lots of it. New offices, new hires, marketing, it all costs money. Where was Marcus getting it? I spent the next 2 days in the Portland Public Library, using their business database subscriptions. Court records, financial filings, property records, all public information if you have the patience to look. And there it was. Castellano and Associates had taken out substantial loans 3 years ago. Over $2 million, backed by the firm's assets and future earnings. But more interesting was where some of that money had gone. Marcus had purchased a house, a mansion, really, in Portland Heights. $8 million. He'd bought a lake house in Bend. He drove a Tesla Model S and a vintage Porsche. His wife, I'd barely met her once, 6 years ago at their wedding, wore Cartier and Chanel. He was living like he was making tens of millions a year. But the firm's revenue, based on the estimates I could find, didn't support that lifestyle. Not even close. Something didn't add up. Harold, I said one evening as we ate Chinese takeout in the motel room. What if Marcus isn't just unethical? What if he's actually breaking the law? Like how? Like stealing from clients. Billing fraud. Something. That's a big accusation, Rob. Is it? He already stole an entire law firm. Why stop there? I opened my laptop. Look at this. The firm took out massive loans, but the revenue doesn't justify the lifestyle. Either they're making money they're not reporting, or they're spending money they don't have. Harold finished. Which means eventually it collapses. Unless they keep bringing in new money to cover the old debts. I felt that cold clarity settling over me again. It's a pyramid. He's running a legal pyramid scheme. Can you prove it? Not yet. But I know someone who might help. The next morning, I called Jennifer Wilcox. It took 3 tries and a message mentioning Jonathan Castellano before she called back. Who is this? Her voice was cautious. Ms. Wilcox, my name is Robert Castellano. I'm Marcus's father. Silence. Then, I'm hanging up. Jonathan Castellano told me you quit rather than watch what Marcus did to him. I need your help. Why would I help you? Because in 3 days, my son looked me in the eye and told me elderly people are a drain on society. Then he had security throw me out of the building I helped finance through his childhood and education. I paused. And because I think you know he's doing something illegal, and you left before you got caught in the crossfire. More silence. I can't talk on the phone. Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m., at Powell's Books. Main location, rare book room on the 3rd floor. She hung up. Part 3, The Puzzle Pieces. Powell's Books was a cathedral to literature, multiple floors, a full city block, the smell of old paper and possibility. I found the rare book room and waited, pretending to browse first editions of Hemingway while my heart raced like I was planning a heist instead of meeting a former lawyer. Jennifer Wilcox arrived exactly at 9. She wore jeans and a blazer, looking more casual than her website photo but somehow sharper. She picked up a book, didn't look at me directly. Are you being followed? She asked quietly. I'm 73 and drove here from a motel. Who would follow me? You'd be surprised what your son is capable of. She turned a page. Why now? Why come after him? Because I finally saw him for what he is. Which is? A man who destroys anyone he thinks is beneath him, including his own father. She set the book down, finally looked at me. Mr. Castellano, I liked working for your son initially. He was brilliant, creative legal strategies, incredible work ethic. But about 2 years before I left, things changed. Or maybe I just finally noticed. Noticed what? The pattern. Every 6 months or so, we'd land a huge new client, some elderly person with a complex estate or a small business owner looking to sell. Marcus would handle them personally. They'd rave about him, say he was like a son, that they trusted him completely. My hands clenched. And then, quietly, things would get complicated. The estate plan would require more work than expected. The business sale would hit snags. Bills would mount. And these clients, mostly elderly, mostly trusting, they just keep paying. That's not illegal if the work is real. But was it? She pulled out her phone, thumbed through photos. I started keeping records before I left. Screenshots of emails, copies of bills. Look at this. She showed me a billing statement. 300 hours billed in a single month for one client. That's impossible. That's 10 hours a day, every single day. Exactly. And when I raised concerns with the other partners, I was told to mind my own business. That Marcus knew what he was doing. That those clients could afford it. Did you report it to the Bar Association? With what proof? Everything looked legitimate on paper. The work orders existed, the documents were filed. I couldn't prove the hours were fraudulent. And I was told very clearly by Marcus that if I made accusations I couldn't back up, I'd never work in law again. So you quit. I quit. And I've regretted it every day since. She met my eyes. Your son is brilliant at appearing legitimate while gutting people from the inside out. But he's gotten greedier. The lifestyle, the expansion, he's taking bigger risks. You think he'll make a mistake? I think he already has. I just couldn't prove it before I left. She glanced around, lowered her voice further. 6 months before I quit, we had a client named Dorothy Hendricks. 82 years old, widow, sold her late husband's manufacturing company for $8 million. She came to us for estate planning, wanted to set up trusts for her grandchildren. What happened? Marcus handled everything personally. But I saw the bills, nearly $500,000 over 18 months. For estate planning. That's insane. When I tried to review the file, Marcus said it was confidential and only he had access. Do you think he stole from her? I think he's stealing from multiple clients. But these are elderly people, Mr. Castellano. They trust him. They don't question the bills. And by the time they realize something's wrong, if they ever do, they're either dead or too confused to fight. The cold rage was back, settling in my chest like ice. Where is Dorothy Hendricks now? Nursing home. Alzheimer's. Her family had to put her there 6 months ago. And the money? I don't know. But her file might. If you could get access to it. How would I do that? She smiled, but it wasn't friendly. That's your problem. But if you figure it out, and if you find evidence of fraud, you call me. I'll testify. And I'll bring everything I kept. Why help me? Because your son is a predator. Because he targets vulnerable people. And because. She hesitated. Because my mother is 78. And every time I see her, I think about what Marcus is doing to people her age. It could be her. After she left, I sat in that rare book room for another hour, thinking. Marcus wasn't just unethical, he was a criminal. But a smart one. Everything would look legitimate on the surface. The only way to prove fraud would be to get inside the firm, access the files, compare what was billed versus what was actually done. Impossible. I was a 73-year-old man who'd been thrown out by security. I had no legal right to access client files. Even if I did, attorney-client privilege would protect them. Unless. That evening, I called my old friend David Chin. We'd met 40 years ago on a construction site. He was a young electrician, I was a young foreman. Now he ran a successful electrical contracting business and served on the board of 3 different companies. Rob. Long time. How's retirement? Educational. David, I need advice. Hypothetically, if you suspected a company was committing fraud, how would you investigate it? Hypothetically? Call the police. And if you needed evidence first? Silence. Rob, what are you into? Just answer the question. Fine. Hypothetically, you need to either get someone inside the company to talk or get access to internal records. Both are nearly impossible without a warrant or subpoena. What about board members? Do they have access? Depends on the company structure. But typically, yes, board members can request financial records, audit results, that sort of thing. How do you become a board member? You're either appointed by the founders or elected by shareholders. Why? An idea was forming. A crazy idea. But maybe crazy enough to work. David, you remember that construction project we did for the Portland Housing Authority 15 years ago? The low-income housing development? Sure. Great project. The director at the time, Margaret Santos. Are you still in touch? Margie? Yeah, we serve on a non-profit board together. Why? I need to meet with her. Can you arrange it? Rob, you're scaring me. Good. I'm a little scared too. But I'm more angry than scared, and that's dangerous for whoever's in my way. 2 days later, I sat in a coffee shop with Margaret Santos. She'd aged well, 70 now, silver hair, sharp as ever. She remembered me, remembered the project. David says you need a favor, she said. Must be important if you're calling in a debt from 15 years ago. It is. Margaret, you still connected with the legal community here? I sit on 3 nonprofit boards, 2 of which require legal guidance. Yes, I know lawyers. Do you know my son? Marcus Castellano? Her expression shifted. I know of him. His firm has approached us about handling some real estate development work. Why? I told her. Not everything, not about Jonathan or Jennifer yet. But about being thrown out, about the attitude toward the elderly, about the suspicions I was developing. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. That's a serious accusation, she finally said. I know. But not an unbelievable one. She stirred her coffee. I've heard rumors. Nothing concrete, but whispers. That Castellano and Associates is aggressive with billing. That they target vulnerable clients. I need to prove it. But I need access to internal records to do that. You're asking me to help you investigate your own son. I'm asking you to help me stop a predator before he hurts more people. I leaned forward. Margaret, you work with nonprofits that serve the elderly. How many of your clients are being targeted by people like Marcus? People who see them as walking bank accounts instead of human beings? She met my eyes. Too many. What do you need? Information on how his firm is structured. Who has oversight? Whether there's any way to compel transparency. I can make some calls. But Rob, if you're right about this, your son will fight back. He's a lawyer. He'll bury you in legal fees and paperwork. Then he underestimates his old man. I smiled. I've got nothing but time, and I'm too old to be scared of expensive lawyers. Over the next week, Margaret worked her network. She discovered that Castellano and Associates, despite its name, was actually structured as a professional limited liability company, a PLLC. In Oregon, PLLCs are required to maintain certain records and allow member inspection under specific circumstances. But I wasn't a member. I had no legal standing. However, Margaret said during our next meeting, there's another angle. If a client files a complaint with the Oregon State Bar, they're required to investigate. If the investigation reveals evidence of fraud, it can be referred to law enforcement. But I'm not a client. No. But Dorothy Hendricks is. Or was. I thought about the elderly woman in a nursing home, her mind stolen by Alzheimer's. She can't file a complaint. But her power of attorney can. Her daughter, Susan Hendricks. Margaret slid a piece of paper across the table. That's her number. I may have mentioned you were interested in discussing concerns about her mother's estate. You're a devious woman, Margaret Santos. I'm a woman who's watched too many elderly people get exploited. Make the call. Susan Hendricks agreed to meet me at her mother's nursing home. She was in her 50s, tired-looking and suspicious. I don't know you, she said as we sat in the visiting area. Why should I trust you? Because I think my son stole from your mother, and I want to help you prove it. That got her attention. Your son is Marcus Castellano? Unfortunately. She studied me for a long moment. Mom loved Marcus. Talked about him all the time. Marcus says this, Marcus thinks that. She said he reminded her of my father. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be useful. She pulled out a folder. After we moved Mom into care, I started going through her finances. Do you know what 18 months of estate planning cost her? $460,000. I felt sick. For what? Excellent question. The bills are all itemized: meetings, document preparation, research, filing fees. It looks legitimate. But here's what bothers me. She showed me a calendar. Look at these dates. March 15th. Bill says Marcus spent 8 hours in a meeting with Mom. But on March 15th, Mom was in the hospital recovering from a fall. I was with her the entire day. You're certain? I'm positive. And it's not the only discrepancy. June 23rd, another 6-hour meeting. But June 23rd, Mom was at my house for my daughter's graduation party. I have photos. Why didn't you file a complaint? I tried. Called the Bar Association. They said without clear proof of fraud, they couldn't investigate. That billing disputes are civil matters. Her voice broke slightly. My mother trusted him. She gave him power of attorney over her financial affairs. And he used it to rob her blind. How much is left? Of the $8 million? About $2 million. The rest went to legal fees, mysterious investment opportunities that never panned out, and a dozen other expenses I can't track down. $6 million. Stolen from an elderly woman who trusted him. Susan, I said carefully, if I could get evidence, real evidence of fraud, would you file a criminal complaint? In a heartbeat. Then let me work. I'm going to bring him down. Back at the motel, Harold was watching me with concern. Rob, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Not before I finish this. I was building a timeline now, cross-referencing Dorothy Hendricks's bills with calendar events, hospital records, anything I could access through public records or with Susan's help. The discrepancies were mounting. But it wasn't enough. Marcus would claim it was honest mistakes, clerical errors. He'd have explanations for everything. I needed something ironclad. I needed his own words condemning him. Harold, I said slowly, how do you feel about a little performance art? Oh. Just hear me out. My plan was simple, possibly illegal, and definitely risky. But it was the only way I could see to get Marcus to reveal his true methods. I had Harold call Castellano and Associates from a burner phone we bought at Walmart. He used a fake name, Richard Morrison, and claimed to be a 78-year-old widower who just sold his construction company for $12 million and needed estate planning help. The receptionist practically sang as she scheduled him for a consultation with Marcus personally. They smell blood, Harold said after he hung up. They smell money. Now comes the hard part. Oregon is a single-party consent state for recording conversations. That means if one person in a conversation knows it's being recorded, it's legal. Harold would be that person. I spent $200 on a high-quality digital recording device, small enough to hide in Harold's jacket pocket. We practiced the setup a dozen times, making sure it would capture clearly, making sure Harold could activate it discreetly. What do I ask him? Harold wanted to know. Nothing specific. Just be an elderly man with money who's a little confused about legal stuff. Let him talk. Let him make his pitch. If he's as predatory as I think, he won't be able to help himself. The consultation was scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Harold went in alone. I couldn't risk being recognized. I waited in a coffee shop 2 blocks away, my phone in my hand, my heart hammering like I was 20 years old and about to ask a girl to prom. At 3:45, Harold called. I'm out. I got it. We waited until we were back at the motel, door locked, curtains drawn. Harold pulled out the recorder with trembling hands. He's exactly what you said, Rob. He's a monster. We listened to the recording. At first, it was standard lawyer-client stuff, Marcus being charming, professional, sympathetic about Harold's fake wife's death. But then, Mr. Morrison, the thing about estate planning at your age is that it's complex. Very complex. Most people don't realize how many documents are needed, how many hours of legal work go into protecting your assets. How many hours are we talking about? Harold's recorded voice asked. Oh, it varies. But for an estate your size, I'd estimate we're looking at several hundred hours of work. Maybe more. Hundreds of hours? Harold sounded appropriately confused. For what exactly? Document preparation, research, filing, consultations. You have to understand, Mr. Morrison, protecting wealth is complicated. There are tax implications, trust structures, asset protection strategies. And at your age, we need to move quickly. Cognitive decline can happen suddenly. We've seen it dozens of times. People wait too long, and then they're not competent to sign documents. My hands clenched. He was already laying the groundwork, already making Harold doubt his own mind. I'm pretty sharp still, Harold said. Of course you are. But legally, we need to act now while you're clearly competent. I'd recommend giving my firm power of attorney over financial decisions, strictly to facilitate the estate planning process, you understand. It makes everything smoother. There it was. The hook. Power of attorney? Harold hesitated convincingly. That seems like a lot of trust. Mr. Morrison, I've handled estates worth hundreds of millions. Your $12 million is significant to you, but to me, it's about doing right by you. About making sure you're protected. Marcus's voice was warm, trustworthy. I lost my own father to cognitive decline. I understand how important this is. I stopped the recording. Harold looked at me. He said you had cognitive decline? He's already rewriting history. justifying why he abandoned me. I rewound it. But this is good. He's establishing his pattern. Now we need more. Over the next 3 weeks, Harold attended 4 more meetings with Marcus. Each time, the recorder captured more. Marcus pushing for power of attorney. Marcus suggesting temporary transfers of assets into accounts the firm controlled. Marcus billing for hours on days Harold was provably somewhere else. But the real gold came in meeting 4, when Harold asked the right question. Do you do this often? Help people my age? It's my specialty, actually. Marcus's voice carried pride. I've found that elderly clients need more guidance. More hands-on management. They've worked their whole lives to build wealth, but they don't have the sophistication to protect it in today's complex financial environment. So you protect them? I protect them from themselves mostly. From bad decisions, from family members who might take advantage, from their own declining faculties. A pause. I had a client recently, wonderful woman, but her memory was going. She wanted to give everything to some charity she'd seen on TV. Can you imagine? $8 million to strangers. I had to step in, redirect some of those assets into more appropriate vehicles. Dorothy Hendricks. He was talking about Dorothy Hendricks. Where did the money go instead? Harold asked. Investment opportunities more suited to her situation. Managed by people who understood her needs. By your firm? Marcus laughed. We facilitated it, yes. For appropriate fees, of course. But that's what a good attorney does. Protects clients even when they can't see what's best for them. I stopped the recording. We had him. Not just billing fraud, outright theft, justified as paternalistic protection. Now what? Harold asked. Now we set the trap. Part 4: The Trap. I spent 3 days preparing my case like a general planning an invasion. Everything had to be perfect, timed precisely, with no room for Marcus to maneuver. First, I reached out to Jonathan Castellano again. I need you to file a complaint with the Oregon State Bar. Formal complaint alleging fraud in the transfer of the firm. I told you, I have no proof. You have your testimony. And I have proof that Marcus has been defrauding other clients the same way he defrauded you. The pattern establishes his methods. Your case becomes credible when it's part of a larger pattern. What proof? Recordings of him admitting to redirecting client assets, billing for fraudulent hours, targeting elderly clients specifically. Plus documentary evidence from multiple victims. Silence. You're serious. File the complaint tomorrow. That starts the clock. Next, I contacted Susan Hendricks. File your complaint the same day. Criminal complaint with the Portland Police, copy to the district attorney's office, and a bar complaint. Include all the evidence you have, the false billing dates, the missing money, everything. Will it work? It will if everyone moves at once. He can't fight fires on multiple fronts. Then I called Margaret Santos. I need one more favor. A big one. Name it. I need you to arrange a meeting with the Oregon Attorney General's office. Elder Fraud Division. Tell them you have a credible witness to a large-scale fraud operation targeting elderly clients. Rob, that's a serious step. Good. Because this is a serious crime. Finally, I contacted Jennifer Wilcox. It's happening. 3 days from now, multiple complaints hit simultaneously. I need you to file your own bar complaint and offer to cooperate with any investigations. Bring every document you kept. I'll be there. But I saved the best for last. The piece de resistance. The thing that would hurt Marcus more than any legal complaint. I called every member of the board of directors for the 3 nonprofits Marcus's firm represented. I called the senior partners at the 5 biggest law firms in Portland. I called the president of the Oregon State Bar Association. I called the legal counsel for the Portland Chamber of Commerce. And I sent each of them a package. Inside, a USB drive containing excerpts of Harold's recordings, identifiable information redacted, copies of Dorothy Hendricks's billing discrepancies, a summary of Jonathan Castellano's allegations, and a cover letter explaining that Marcus Castellano was under investigation for systematic fraud targeting elderly clients. "You're nuking his reputation," Harold observed. "He said the elderly are a drain. That we're dead weight." I sealed the last envelope. "I'm showing him what happens when dead weight falls on you." D-Day was a Monday. At 9 a.m., Jonathan Castellano filed his bar complaint. At 9:15, Susan Hendricks filed her criminal complaint and bar complaint. At 9:30, Jennifer Wilcox filed her complaint and offered to testify. At 10 a.m., I walked into the Oregon Attorney General's office with Margaret Santos and 3 boxes of evidence. The assistant AG who met with us was young, sharp-eyed, skeptical. "Mr. Castellano, you understand you're accusing your own son of felony fraud?" "I'm accusing him of being a criminal who happens to share my DNA. There's a difference." I walked him through everything. The pattern with Jonathan. The Dorothy Hendricks case. The recordings where Marcus admitted to redirecting client assets. The billing fraud documented across multiple clients. The systematic targeting of elderly, vulnerable people. By the time I finished, he wasn't skeptical anymore. He was angry. "How many victims are we talking about?" "Based on what Jennifer Wilcox remembers, at least 15 over 5 years. Possibly more." "And total dollar amount?" "Conservatively? $20 to $30 million. He sat back. "Mr. Castellano, I'm going to need to verify all of this. But if what you're showing me holds up, this is one of the largest elder fraud cases we've seen. Then I suggest you move quickly. My son is smart. If he gets wind of the investigations, he'll start covering his tracks. We'll need your friend, Mr. Morrison, to testify. Harold will cooperate fully. He's made himself bait to catch a predator. He'll see it through." The AG nodded. "Give me 48 hours. I'll have a team assembled and warrants prepared. We'll freeze the firm's accounts and seize records before he knows what's happening." I stood to leave, then turned back. "One more thing. When you arrest him, I want to be there." "That's highly irregular." "I don't care. He threw me out like garbage. I want him to see my face when his world collapses." The assistant AG studied me. "I'll see what I can do." As Margaret and I left the building, she touched my arm. "Are you all right?" "No. But I will be." "Rob, he's still your son." "No. My son died 5 years ago when he decided elderly people were disposable. The man I'm destroying is a stranger." For the next 48 hours, I barely slept. I kept waiting for Marcus to somehow find out, to disappear or destroy evidence. But nothing happened. His hubris was his weakness. He couldn't imagine anyone, especially not his elderly father, could threaten his empire. Wednesday morning, 7 a.m. My phone rang. "Mr. Castellano? This is Assistant AG Morrison. We're moving in 1 hour. If you want to be there, meet me at the U.S. Bank Tower at 8 a.m. Park 3 blocks away and walk. Don't be obvious." I was there at 7:45. So was Harold, and Jennifer Wilcox, and even Jonathan Castellano. We stood on the corner like spectators waiting for a parade, except this parade was a convoy of police cars and AG investigators. At exactly 8 a.m., they swept into the building. 6 vehicles, 20 personnel. I watched them disappear inside, imagined them filling the lobby, demanding access, presenting warrants. My phone buzzed. Margaret. Just heard from my contact at the bar. They're opening a formal investigation. Castellano's license is suspended pending review. Another text. Susan. Police just called. They're executing warrants now. Thank you. And then, the image I'd been waiting for. Marcus, in handcuffs, being led out of his glass tower by 2 police officers. Even from 3 blocks away, I could see his face, confusion, then shock, then something like fear. Rob, Harold said softly. You did it. Not yet. Now comes the best part. I walked toward the building. The police saw me, and one of the AG's investigators, a woman I'd met 2 days ago, intercepted me. Mr. Castellano, you shouldn't be here. Just give me 30 seconds. She hesitated, then stepped aside. I walked up to Marcus. He was standing by a police car, still in cuffs, his expensive suit rumpled. When he saw me, his expression cycled through shock, disbelief, and finally, recognition. You, he breathed. Hello, son. What did you do? What the hell did you do? I taught you a lesson. I kept my voice calm, cold. You said elderly people are a drain. That we're dead weight. You threw me out of your office like I was nothing. You're behind this? You called the police? I did more than that. I investigated you. I documented your crimes. I found your victims. I gathered evidence that will send you to prison for 10 to 15 years. His face went white. You can't prove anything. I'm a lawyer. You were a lawyer. Your license is suspended. And I can prove everything, Marcus. I have recordings of you admitting to fraud. I have billing records showing you charged for meetings that never happened. I have victims willing to testify. I have a paper trail showing you stole millions from vulnerable people. Why? His voice cracked. Why would you do this to your own son? Because you're not my son anymore. My son valued integrity. My son cared about people. You're just a predator in an expensive suit. I built an empire. You built a house of cards on the backs of elderly people you considered too weak to fight back. But you forgot something, Marcus. You forgot that being old doesn't mean being stupid. It doesn't mean being powerless. I leaned closer. It means having experience. Patience. The wisdom to plan 3 moves ahead while you're still celebrating move 1. The recordings? He said suddenly. You can't use those. I never consented. Oregon is a single-party consent state. My friend Harold consented. It's completely legal. I smiled. You're the lawyer. You should have known that. The police officer cleared his throat. Sir, we need to transport the prisoner. Of course. I stepped back. Marcus, one more thing. Remember when you said empires are built by cutting dead weight? He stared at me, hatred and fear warring in his eyes. You were right. I cut the dead weight. Goodbye, son. They put him in the car and drove away. I stood there watching until the vehicle disappeared around a corner. Harold appeared at my side. How do you feel? Like I just put down a rabid dog. I turned to him. Let's get breakfast. I'm starving. Part 5, The Aftermath. The fallout was spectacular. Within 24 hours, every major news outlet in Oregon ran the story. Prominent Portland attorney arrested for elder fraud. The details were damning, targeting vulnerable seniors, stealing millions, systematic deception. Marcus's face was on the evening news, frozen in that moment of shock as he was led to the police car. The firm collapsed in a week. The other associates, once so loyal to Marcus, scattered like rats from a sinking ship. 3 of them had known about the fraud and tried to cut deals with prosecutors. 2 had been completely in the dark and hired lawyers to prove it. The civil suits came next. Susan Hendricks filed first, seeking return of the $6 million Marcus had stolen from her mother, plus damages. 11 other families followed. Jonathan Castellano filed a lawsuit to reclaim his firm, arguing the original transfer was obtained through fraud. But the criminal case was the centerpiece. The AG's office charged Marcus with 47 counts of fraud, theft, elder abuse, and racketeering. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings alone would have been enough, but combined with the documentary evidence, witness testimony, and forensic accounting, it was airtight. Marcus's lawyers tried everything. They claimed entrapment, dismissed. They challenged the recordings, upheld. They argued billing disputes weren't criminal, shut down by the evidence of asset theft. They painted me as a vengeful father with a grudge, until the prosecutors showed that 12 other families had been victimized the same way. 3 months after his arrest, Marcus accepted a plea deal, 15 years in prison, restitution of $23 million, which he didn't have, permanent disbarment, and cooperation in identifying any co-conspirators. I attended the sentencing hearing. Marcus looked smaller somehow, in his cheap suit, his hair uncombed, his face gray. When the judge asked if he had anything to say, he stood slowly. "I'd like to apologize to my victims and their families. I lost sight of what mattered. I let ambition blind me to basic human decency." He paused. "And I'd like to apologize to my father. He raised me better than this. I failed him. Too little, too late. But at least he said it." After the hearing, Susan Hendricks approached me. "Mr. Castellano, I wanted to thank you. Because of you, we're getting some of Mom's money back. It won't undo the damage, but it helps." "How is she?" "The same. The Alzheimer's doesn't care about justice. But at least I can afford better care for her now." She squeezed my hand. "You're a good man. He should have been more like you." Jennifer Wilcox got a job at a different firm, one with actual ethics. Jonathan Castellano received a settlement that let him retire comfortably. The Oregon State Bar implemented new oversight procedures for attorneys handling elderly clients' estates. And me? I went back to Arizona. Back to my little retirement house with its desert views and quiet streets. But before I left Portland, I did one last thing. I visited Marcus in jail. He was surprised. I could see it in his face when they brought him to the visiting room. "Dad?" He sat down behind the glass. "I didn't think you'd come. I almost didn't. Why did you?" "Because despite everything, you're still the boy I raised. The boy who cried when his goldfish died. Who wanted to be a superhero for Halloween 3 years in a row. Who told me in 2nd grade that he wanted to be a lawyer so he could help people who needed help." His eyes reddened. "I'm sorry. I know. But sorry doesn't undo the damage, Marcus. It doesn't give those people back the years of security you stole. It doesn't restore their trust. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what you did? I stole from them. I lied. I abused their trust. You did more than that. You treated human beings like resources to be exploited. You saw elderly people, people with decades of experience, with families who loved them, with hopes and fears and dignity, and you saw only dollar signs." I leaned forward. "That's not just criminal, Marcus. That's monstrous." He flinched. "What do you want me to say?" Nothing. I'm not here for your words. I stood. I'm here to tell you that you have 15 years to figure out who you want to be. The ambitious predator who destroyed lives for money, or the man who learns that real success isn't measured in dollars or power. It's measured in how you treat people who can't fight back. Will you visit again? I looked at him for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe after you've done the work to become someone worth visiting. That's fair. It's more than fair. It's generous. I turned to leave, then looked back. Marcus, you're 43 years old. If you serve your full sentence, you'll be 58 when you get out. Still time to build something real. Something that matters. How? By helping people instead of exploiting them. By using that brilliant mind for good instead of greed. By being the man I raised you to be. I paused. But that's your choice. I can't make it for you. I left him there, behind the glass, and I didn't look back. Epilogue, 3 years later. I'm sitting on my porch in Arizona, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and red. Harold is here. He moved to a retirement community 20 minutes away last year, says he likes the golf. My phone buzzes. A text from Susan Hendricks. Mom passed away peacefully last night. Wanted you to know. Thank you again for everything. I text back my condolences, then sit with the news. Dorothy Hendricks is free now, free from the Alzheimer's that stole her mind, free from the knowledge that someone she trusted had betrayed her. Another text, this one unexpected. Dad, it's Marcus. They're letting me take college courses in here. I'm studying social work. Thought you'd want to know. Social work. Helping people. Maybe there's hope after all. I don't respond immediately. Let him wait. Let him wonder. Let him learn that redemption isn't given freely, it's earned through action, through change, through becoming better than you were. But eventually I type. Good. Keep going. Harold appears with 2 beers. You okay? Better than okay. I take a beer, clink it against his. You know what the best part of all this was? Watching him get arrested? No. Though that was satisfying. I smile. The best part was proving that being old doesn't mean being powerless. That experience and patience and wisdom can take down youth and ambition when they're corrupted by greed. You think he'll actually change? Maybe. Maybe not. But I gave him the chance. I sip my beer. And I sent a message to every other predator out there who thinks elderly people are easy marks. We're not. We're not dead weight. We're not drains on society. We're people with decades of experience in solving problems, and if you come for us, we'll use every single one of those years against you. Harold laughs. Remind me never to get on your bad side. You're safe. You're useful. I grin. Plus, you're an excellent undercover operative. I really should add that to my resume. We sit in comfortable silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Somewhere in Oregon, Marcus is in a cell, hopefully learning to be a better man. Somewhere in Portland, families are rebuilding their lives with the money I helped recover. Somewhere, a young lawyer is thinking twice before targeting an elderly client, remembering the cautionary tale of Marcus Castellano. And me? I'm just an old man on a porch, drinking beer with his best friend, satisfied that I taught my son the lesson I should have taught him 30 years ago, that every person has value, regardless of age. That integrity matters more than success. That when you treat people as disposable, you'll eventually discover that you're the one who gets thrown away. Revenge? Sure. But also justice. Also protection. Also a reminder that the elderly aren't victims waiting to happen. We're warriors with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Marcus thought being old made me weak. He forgot that being old means I've survived every challenge life threw at me for 73 years. I've buried friends, outlasted competitors, weathered recessions and heartbreak and loss. I've built things with my hands and my mind. I've learned patience. And patience, as my son discovered, is the most dangerous weapon of all. The sun sets. The stars come out. I'm still here, still standing, still fighting when I need to. And I'm not done yet. The end. Remember, never underestimate the power of an old man with nothing to lose and everything to prove. We didn't survive this long by being weak. We survived by being smart, patient, and absolutely ruthless when protecting what matters. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story of cold, calculated revenge. Comment below. Have you ever had to teach someone a harsh lesson? How did it turn out?